Perimenopausal Athletes and Beyond Masterclass series, where I am bringing together so many incredible human beings to talk about sleep and hormones and all this stuff. And here we are. I'm so excited to introduce Jodi Silverman. She is, yes, welcome, Jodi. Thank you for joining us.
Hey.
So happy that you're here. And Jodi, let me just tell you a little bit about Jodi first. She is a published author, a certified life coach. She's a public speaker, an entrepreneur, and she loves and has a huge history of transforming ideas into success. And one of the ways that she does this, and we've come into connection because she has created a community of women that are learning to dare, right?
Yes.
So can you share, and this is the whole thing, is Moms Who Dare. And can you share just a little bit about this passion that you have and really helping people to come with a fire in their belly to move beyond their comfort zones?
Yes, I would love to. So again, I'm so excited to be here, Tennille, and to share daring and everything we're going to talk about with your audience. So daring can be a scary word for people, but simply it's stepping out of your comfort zone to try something new. And you can define something new as something you've never done, or it could be something that you haven't done in 5, 10, 15 years. You get to define what that is. And it is something I found I had been doing during my personal growth journey, about 3 years into it. And I heard somebody speak about her year of daring to do something new every day for a year to get unstuck. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's me. I'm a mom who dares. And at the time, my kids were getting ready to graduate high school, go off to college. And I realized that I was having a lot of fun. I was scared. I was stepping out of my comfort zone, a little scared, but having excitement and trying new things. And I was meeting new people and opportunities were coming my way. And I decided in that moment, hearing this woman speak, that we were all going to be moms who dare, and that my friends and fellow moms were not going to be allowed to sit at home and cry because the kids were leaving, that this was the time for us to do something new and different for us. So Moms Who Dare was born.
Oh, so cool. And I know it's a thriving community. So to bring it into the community that's listening to this. So here we are, we're athletes in perimenopause beyond, it's perimenopause can start as young as 35. And that's not, that's on the really early range. But we, in the 50s is, more when we really hit the perimenopause, and then we have the whole beyond. So it's interesting because our worlds can intersect. And when you think about daring and where we create time and how we're coming into ourselves and changing in selves and in our changing body too, there's a whole lot of daring. There's a whole lot of how do you get to a start line? And and I don't mean start line as just the actual start line of a race. It means, how do I show up for myself?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that you and I really can just get jazzed about is starting to think about this idea of self-talk. So I want to who has an issue with self-talk, that negative self-talk, that voice that is it's crazy. And this is something that you, Jodi, really, really specialize in, right? You've written in it, you talk about it. And this is what I really wanted to bring out to the listeners today. And how do we even notice it? So maybe we can just start there, is maybe what are we talking about when we talk about self-talk? Maybe even the types of self-talk, and then how do we even start to notice? Because that was my biggest challenge, is I was so good at shoving down. But let's get into it. I'll let you talk.
No, and thank you for saying it, because I like to think of self-talk as like my jam mindset.
Yeah.
And it was one of the first things that my first coach that I hired, a business coach, a life coach actually, that she helped me with. She pointed out that my self-talk in our conversation wasn't very self-serve. It wasn't serving me well at all. And I was shocked because I'm a positive, optimistic person by nature. And so I started diving into the self-talk and cleaning it up a little bit. So basically self-talk just simply refers to the ongoing dialogue that occurs within our minds. And it influences how we show up in the world. It influences how we feel. It influences how we behave. And so I love it. I read a quote, and I don't know who said it, but they phrase it, it's a script we use to frame our lives. So having negative self-talk, things like, I'm not good at blank, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too short, I'm too tall, I'm never good at that, I was never good at learning, I'm a procrastinator, whatever the words sound like to you, they saying those things over and over again, not even out loud, but even on an unconscious level, quietly in your mind, thinking those things can be really detrimental to your confidence, your happiness, your self-esteem, your ability to do well in your given chosen sport. There's a way to reframe it. So it matters in a big way because what we say and what we think influences the way we perceive ourselves. It influences the way we see our environment, and it influences the people around us as well.
So I totally get that. So now how do we start noticing it? Because I think that it's so insidious.
No, it is. And I just want to share one statistic because this blew me away when I read it. So I'm going to look down at my numbers to make sure I say it right. So according to the National Science Foundation, on average, a person has anywhere between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts per day. No wonder we're so tired. It's not menopause, it's the thoughts we're having. I'm only kidding. But of those thoughts, of anywhere from 12 to 60,000, 80% are negative.
Oh,
95% are repetitive thoughts. So it's a potential of up to 40,000 negative thoughts. And if we're repeating them over and over and over again, I mean, just imagine the effect it has on how you show up for yourself, how your confidence, your level of happiness. So, it becoming aware of what's happening, of what you're saying and what you're thinking is the first step. Creating self-talk awareness is the first step in being able to start down a path of cleaning up your self-talk, shifting it, and then ending up at having self-talk resilience with it. And really, you asked the question, how do we become aware of it?
Yeah.
It's almost like everything else. When you want to create awareness, you have to pay attention. You have to be really intentional. So making a decision that I'm going to be really intentional during the day of listening to what I say, hearing what I'm thinking, and then keep a notepad with you, a journal, a notepad, and write it down. Pay attention when you're having a conversation with somebody. How many times you use I'm not, I don't think, I should, I need. Paying attention. And when you make a decision to pay attention, you do pay attention. So creating awareness, the first step is paying attention and then writing down what you're hearing yourself think and say.
You keep on referring to the I am. And I think that that's a really important component of this self-talk, because it then you take on this definition of whatever it is.
Yeah.
Are there other ways of how self-talk comes in, like other than the I am?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
How about I'll use something that you and I can, like, instead of, somebody might say, oh, I need to go to the gym today. And so there's the I ams. Let me back up. I ams are affirmations. They're two of the simplest words to create a positive affirmation out of a negative. And they are two powerful words that tell your subconscious it is so. So whatever you put after I am, your subconscious believes, whether it's negative or positive. There's research, you can go find that.
Yeah.
The second way you can combat and start to create a shift in your self-talk is through word swapping. So the person says, oh, I need to go to the gym. I have to go to the gym, or I should go to the gym. I need to work out. Instead, you can swap that to, I get to go to the gym. I choose to work out and keep my body fit and strong so that I can run my triathlon. I want to feel strong so I'm not injured on the tennis court. So swapping out words like need, have to, or should to with get to, choose to, or want to. That's an idea. And another one, I love this one. I love the but and the and swap.
Yeah.
So because when you talk about something and then you insert a but, you're automatically negating everything you say. You're canceling out everything you say before. So, and this is really great to learn as a parent when we talk to our children. I understand what you're saying, Tennille, but you basically just told Tennille whatever you just said you understood, you're putting it away. But if you say, look, I understand what you're saying, and I could also see that blank, blank, blank. So word swapping is a big deal. And if you're having trouble word swapping, Google word swap. Google's a great tool if you're struggling with that. But the want to, choose to, and I get to are my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really think that this is brilliant. I think that like when you are working with your clients and supporting, people to get mobilized and get going, I think of like, okay, bite size. So if I imagine, maybe I would think of like, okay, if I need to start becoming aware, it would find it hard to think about my whole day and being intentional, because my intention kind of gets thrown out the window quite quickly. So maybe would you recommend like during breakfast, like if you're preparing a breakfast or during like a certain amount of time, just try to keep on saying every time you say I, then that's like actually hear yourself saying what you do next.
I think that's a great tip that you're just offered there. I would say that, so what you're asking, if I hear you correct, when we start out with my self-talk cleanup, when I work on the cleanup, it's the I ams. I generally tell them, start in the morning when you start to pay attention. What's the first thing you say when you look in the mirror? Quietly to yourself or out loud? Because that's the most powerful time, mostly for women, when they look in the mirror in the morning. So if you want to become really aware of something you might be saying that is not kind to yourself, that is negative self-talk, when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror, pay attention in that second. And I like what you said, when you open your mouth to say I, pay attention to what's following next. Those are two really good times to start small. You don't have to, so yes, I wouldn't recommend trying to pay attention every single second of the first day. You're going to be exhausted.
Well, it just wouldn't happen.
Right. But however, if you pick that like you said, the word I, every time you say I, you're going to listen and pay attention to what follows it. Or every time you pass a mirror, maybe pay attention to what your thoughts are as you pass that mirror. And then you can record it, make note of it, and possibly swap it out with the I am. And that's part of the self-talk cleanup resource that I have that teaches you how to do that. And it has the word swaps in it as well. The other thing I just wanted to share, there's two other strategies for combating negative self-talk. So you have affirmations, you have the word swaps. Yeah. You also have motivational talk and instructional talk. I think instructional self-talk will really resonate with your athletes, with your audience that watch this, because we learn, especially if you're an athlete that's in a solo sport, you don't have access to your coach, you're out there running a marathon, you're out there training. For me on the tennis court, if I find myself unfocused, if I find myself, getting flat-footed, or I'm missing the ball's jamming me at my feet, and instructional self-talk would sound like, all right, Jodi, move your feet, see the ball, move your feet, follow through. Whatever that might look like for you. And instructional self-talk is a really good way to move yourself through the negative thoughts. Like, instead of, oh my God, it jammed me at my feet again. I can't believe I can't move. I can't believe I'm hitting the ball out. What's that going to do? None of that's going to help me hit the ball better. But if I take a deep breath and say, okay, move your feet, see the ball, I'm giving myself the basic instruction I need to get back focused, to feel in a positive mind space, because I know how to see the ball. I know how to hit the ball and move my feet.
Yeah. I love that. I do that with my athletes. I call it an efficiency check. It's not an instructional self-talk. It's my efficiency check. And they do it on their bike, and it starts with your hands, and it starts like, are your hands are you holding tension in your hands? Are you wasting energy, in other worwords? And then you go into your elbows and your shoulders and jaw, and we go through the whole body. And by the time, you are working to continuously allow blood flow to go through, but it just keeps you on track to being and in a form that is going to be most able, like, to help facilitate the best type of movement. So I absolutely love that. And I think that you can do this for any sport and for any way of any practice that you have, going to the gym, of understanding, okay, like if you're looking at them, if your gym happens to have mirrors, CrossFit gyms don't have mirrors, but if you're looking or trying to bring awareness, then developing that storyline and that instruction to keep you focused on exactly what you're doing, I think is super, super helpful. So then you mentioned motivational self-talk.
That's being your own cheerleader. We can all be our own cheerleaders. Yeah. That's and I'll bring it back to tennis just because that's my sport. That's my chosen sport. That's the, come on, bounce it. You got it. You have the energy. You can do anything for another 10 minutes. You've got this, Jodi.
Yeah.
I used to say, oh my God, you're so much better than that. That's not really positive self-talk. Yeah. So I flipped that to, okay, you got this. Come on, you know what to do. Mm-hmm. And then I go into you got this, you can do it. I might cheer my partner on, I play on doubles, but motivational self-talk is exactly that. It's grab your pom-poms and cheer yourself on. I'm going to be excellent at tennis today. There's a positive affirmation you can use as a motivational self-talk. And I've got this is like that works for me. When I say, come on, you've got this, Jodi.
There's also, research, I believe, that also speaks to the energy that you get from the positive versus the negative is just like, it just will blow you away. That if we have this idea that a fear-based, is a motivator, it really isn't. Like, it is proven to not be nearly as motivating and energizing long-term as as would be something that is like, let's have compassion. Let's, bummer, I missed that ball. How can I use this for the next?
And you know what, Tennille, you made me remember. So there is a psychologist that lives in my area. He's also a hypnotist, and he was on staff as a staff psychologist for the Philadelphia Flyers for many, many years. And he wrote a book, and I want to say it's called, I probably have it behind me. I'll get it to you later if you want to share it with the audience. I think it's called Hell Yes, I Want to Win. Mm-hmm. And I believe when I read something and it had to do with golf, but I flipped it and used it for tennis. So for example, most people in tennis, when they miss their first serve, not like Serena Williams, but people like me would say, oh God, it's my second serve. Like, oh, it's softer, it's not good. But instead of that, go up to the line and say, oh, my second serve always goes in. You don't necessarily have to believe it, but just the difference between getting up to the line and going, oh God, it's my second serve. And then, oh, my second serve, it'll go in the box. Like, I'm a little bit more confident. And do you know that I never double fault? Never. It might not be the most kick-ass serve. It might not be the greatest, but I get it. But I know that I can handle whatever comes back to me. So I'm just saying, so yes, it's important.
Yeah, it's so important, and it's so challenging too. Like, this is a work that will take the rest of our lives.
Oh yes, we're never finished on self-talk.
Yeah.
It's always, and you know what? Here's what I say: not every bit of your fallback negative self-talk is going to disappear forever. Mm-hmm. Some of it's there for a reason. And that's the awareness. When you can become aware of what you say often, some of it will disappear, some of it will go away. You'll increase your confidence in certain areas of your life. But I like to tell you, there's some self-talk or thoughts that will always pop up, but they pop up for a reason. Mm-hmm. And it's to create awareness around something else. And that's where the self-talk awareness leads to the self-talk resilience.
Yeah.
So as you get there, what happens is eventually over time, when you practice cleaning up your self-talk with these strategies, whether it's I am affirmations, word swapping, journaling, just taking notice, really noticing, eventually you become aware of maybe one or two thoughts that pop up every now and then, and you can take pause. You know they're coming. You can feel them coming. Like I feel it. Like I can feel a little anxious, and then I know, oh, and then the thought starts to come. And in that moment, I'm able to stop and say, okay, I know you're there. I don't know technology well enough to get this done. I know that thought very well. And I'm like, okay, so why is that popping up right now? What was I just doing, thinking, or talking about that caused the feelings or
your
the
trigger.
actual, yeah. So now you know your trigger. And then knowing the trigger, you can actually say, is this real? Is this really true? Or is this just because I'm stepping out of my comfort zone because I'm getting ready to dare, because I'm getting ready to do something new or different, challenging.
Yeah.
And when you do that, that builds that resilience against your self-talk so that you can feel more confident and happier and stronger and show up that way for yourself and for your children and for your team.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super, super, I get goosebumps just thinking about like the strategy of like, you recognize, you become aware, and then you ask, is it true? Is this true? Does this have to be true? Do I have to stick with this story? And that's a serious celebration that you have when you get and you start to noticing that. I know that it was a big thing for me, is like, oh, I had no idea. Like I really had no idea. And I was privileged to work with Silke and Lauman in this way. And that, I had no idea until I started getting coached on this, because I was so effective at shutting it down. And I think there's another thing of it, like you really, as athletes, we power through. We're really good at powering through and getting to a finish line. And again, I don't mean just like a literal finish line, but grinning down and bear it. I'd say even as females, we are good at that. Yeah. And this is a whole different way of being, as stopping and noticing and not powering through. I have one more question for you before we get to learn about what you're offering. But the thing is, do you bring into also different ways of, like, you mentioned earlier that you actually feel it. And I think that as athletes, we often feel things before we actually like hear things sometimes. Feel it in our bodies. And I'm wondering if there was any tools or things that you had to share on that. Does your physical awareness help bring in the mental awareness?
Oh, I think it does. And I think there's going to be people that when they hear this talk, they're going to say, well, I don't know about the words I use, but I definitely feel anxious. I definitely feel the feeling of fear. Like I get it here. Like I start to feel like a little racy, and I know that something's happening. I know something's happening. So it's awareness, it's paying attention. If you're somebody who's let's call it thought focused versus feeling focused. But if you're thought focused, eventually you start, when you pay attention to thoughts, you're going to start to then become aware of how you feel. And the two do go hand in hand. I mean, it's all depends on how you do it, but it happens. When you create self-talk awareness, you're either going to create awareness around how you feel and notice that same phrase or word is coming at the same time, or reverse. For people, it's different. I will tell you, a good way to remember our strategy for how to figure out what your trigger is, and then to ask, like, is this true or not? Does this have to be so? Is the acronym TALK, TALK. Take notice, which is the paying attention part.
Yeah.
And this is what you said, as athletes and as women, that you just dig deep and you bury it and you push it away. Acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Acknowledge it. Like it's Elizabeth Gilbert that tells you to welcome fear in as an old friend. So acknowledge it. Say, oh, I know you're here. Hello. But then that's to learn from it. Ask yourself what it is you were just doing, thinking, or talking about. Yeah. And then you have two choices: swap it out or kick it out. Just kick it out with another I am statement or something. So I just wanted to share that because TALK is a good way of recognizing it. But yeah, the feeling part, it's hard to articulate, but you will notice how you feel. So the first thing is notice what you're saying and thinking when you look in the mirror in the morning. And then once you get there, you'll start to I think on a subconscious level, you'll start to just feel it.
Yeah. For me, it's opposite. I have to feel and then I can notice my thoughts. I have to first feel it in my body. Like I can understand it from my heart rate, or I can understand it with just how all of a sudden I'll start tensing up. Like all of a sudden my shoulders are like up near my ears and I'm just like, what is going on? And then I'm just like, oh, I was in this impossibility.
Yes.
In my thinking, and it's not just, it's kind of funny how that goes. And so that's the awareness, and then I can release it. So this has been really, I hope it is really helpful for the listeners into this today. And if anything, it's a real good reminder for us to become aware of the I. And I love all the strategies you've given us, Jodi, and that you can really help us move forward in some of this. Now you are offering exactly what we've just talked about. Self-talk cleanup, which is going to be awesome. And I want to encourage you to go to the link. It will be there for you on the page, and to take a look and to take the time, like make that commitment to take a little bit of time so we can be in the world, dare in the world, and do what we want to do. So I have to finish off by asking you a couple of rapid fire questions. Are you ready? Okay. Give us one moment of courage.
When I went ziplining in Jamaica.
Oh, well done.
That was daring and courageous. Yes.
That's very daring and courageous. I would agree. One thing you're curious about right now.
So I'm going to go inside on this one. I've been getting very curious about optimism and resiliency, and because I view myself as a very optimistic, resilient person, and I used to wonder self-doubt what was wrong with me that I could find joy in sad moments. So I'm really curious, and I'm doing a lot of reading and looking up on the power of optimism and happiness, and if it can be, and how it can be learned and taught.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Well, we'll have to stay tuned on that. And what are you grateful for right now?
Oh, so much, so much. I really, the thing that pops most into my head is I'm grateful for the life that my husband and I have been able to create together for ourselves and for our family. I'm proud of us, and I'm grateful for everything that we've been able to do, accomplish, and gain. And yeah,
that's pretty special just to be there in that space. Is there any last words that you would like to leave us with, Jodi?
You know what? I guess I would just say to everyone, I'll use my mantra that my wish for you is to keep daring on. And daring on, I invite you to use it as a mantra, to dare on, to inspire you to dream big, to, push you forward when you need a little push, to persevere when life throws challenges your way. So just keep on daring on.
I love it. Thank you so much.